AM 590, KXSP Omaha's ESPN Radio. It's time for the Metro's only racing talk show. The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Now, here's Dan Taylor, Buddy Ray, and Andrew Kosiski.
Good morning, race fans, and happy Easter to everyone out there. We hope you're enjoying your Easter Sunday and about ready to take in some Easter lunch in a few hours. I want to throw a quick plug out to one of our sponsors. The official watering hole of the Front Stretch is having an Easter buffet today. You really can't go wrong with over 2,000 Easter eggs for the kids, 10 and under, to go and hunt for. And then the parents can take on a buffet of prime rib, ham, and all of the fixins. Goes down at 11 a.m. this morning, Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs. If you, listen, I don't want to cook for Easter, even though I love to eat. So I just may make my way down to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Call it what it is, Dan. You're just thinking lube tubes.
No, I'm a lazy fat guy. I would prefer somebody else make my food, and a prime rib buffet sounds a hell of a lot better than what I was going to make.
How much does that cost, prime rib buffet?
$15.99 for adults, $8.99 for kids, and then $13.99 for seniors. That's a heck of a deal.
You think I'd qualify for senior?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. The way you drive for Quaker Steak and Lube in Council Bluffs. Sorry, buddy.
I'm going to throw a water bottle at you. Then I'm going to tweet about it.
That's all right. I'll just have some post-race tirade about you then. Let's talk about the race that happened last weekend at Auto Club Speedway. I think we can all agree probably one of the best races we've seen yet.
I think it's the best race I've seen in several years.
Yeah, by far.
I'm going to say that the Nationwide is still challenging the Cup for good races. I think Bristol 2 weeks ago, Nationwide finish, and the Nationwide race was phenomenal. And I think the truck race at Daytona was phenomenal. But the Cup is definitely getting better and better as the teams seem to get a handle on this Gen 6 car and can kind of work with it a little bit. Now, maybe Fontana may be a little bit of a bad barometer because we've had some great racing there the last couple of years. But it's a good sign. In the ratings that came out, overnight ratings up 10% from last year's Auto Club Speedway race, same time last year. So all signs point to things are getting better for NASCAR. And let's go through how the race finished up. And these are your official results. Now, if you watched the race last weekend, there was a little bit of confusion with the wreck at the end of the race. NASCAR did end up throwing the caution. And originally, the telecast had posted as the cars passed the start-finish line. But the top five changed up a little bit because NASCAR ended up throwing the caution before the start-finish line was crossed, so locking the field down. But here is your top 10. Ryan Bloomin' Newman got himself a top 10, and if you were paying attention to the Facebook page, you could have got yourself a bloomin' onion at Outback Steakhouse on Monday because Ryan finished in the top 10. Casey Kane comes home with a top 9th place finish. Paul Menard has a great day, 8th place. Matt Kenseth, 7th. Did you guys hear that? Matt Kenseth finished 7th. Matt Kenseth? Anybody?
Why is he so important?
We'll find out. Greg Biffle.
I never heard of him.
He's been running the front quite a bit lately. Greg Biffle finishes 6th. Kurt Busch. Furniture Row Racing, that number 78, second top 5 finish in as many weeks. Great race for Kurt Busch and the Furniture Row guys. Carl Edwards comes home 4th, Joey Logano 3rd, Dale Earnhardt Jr. 2nd, and Kyle Busch gets the victory. Now, what I talked about just before I started reading those off, I believe Carl and who was it? Carl and Kurt were both scored ahead of Joey Logano.
Correct.
At the end of the race, but when they threw the caution, because Joey was still under power, he was technically scored as 3rd. So Joey comes home, even though with the wreck, he still gets himself a 3rd place finish, which isn't a bad day, but I don't think he's still happy with the way his day ended. That was your finish and your point standings. All is well in the world of NASCAR. Ratings are up, racing is up, and Dale Jr. is on top of the points.
The only thing I can think of NASCAR right now is it's getting to be like a new crossover sport. At Fontana, we saw racing in almost a UFC fight on pit road. I mean, this is great.
We're going to talk about that fight in Turn 2. Turn 3, we're going to talk with Randy Palmer of the Nebraska 360 Sprints. And in Turn 4, we're going to kind of break down what we have seen so far in the 5 races. Your point standings so far after Auto Club Speedway, Denny Hamlin sits in 10th place. Joey Logano is in 9th. Paul Menard sits 8th. Casey Kane 7th. Kyle Busch comes up several places. He is in 6th, Greg Biffle 5th, Carl Edwards 4th. Jimmy Johnson loses a little bit of ground but remains in 3rd place. Brad Keselowski falls back a position. He's now in 2nd place, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. has taken over the points lead. The consistency for Dale, I mean, he's had a great first 5 races of the season.
I think he has. He's been looking really strong, and I tell you what, if you guys got to see that maneuver, we were talking, Dan, was that a move or a save?
Was it a save? We really can't tell. I think it was the last lap. Or
Something
one
like
of the
that,
last laps. I mean, there was so much action. Those last 11 laps, it all kind of blurs together. But, he got hit by the back of, Kevin Harvick.
Yep.
And either got loose or decided, I'm getting out of here. But he dives all the way to the apron, from the wall all the way down to the apron, and ends up picking up a couple of positions. So, great move for Dale and a heck of a save, even if it wasn't, because to turn the car that fast, holy cow, that was insane. We're going to take a quick turn 1 because I've got a feeling says turn 2 is going to be a little lengthy. And then in turn 3, we're going to talk with Randy Palmer. Coming up next, we're going to have a discussion about the Logano-Hamlin feud, the now Logano-Stewart feud, and everything that happened after the race and everything that we think is going to happen until Martinsville. That's all coming up next on The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
In 1999, Wade Cross decided he was tired of overpaying for shocks, so he created FX Shocks. Now FX suspension customers reach across the United States with countless wins and championships, including national champion in 3 major IMCA classes, plus Super Nationals champions in all 4 of the Saturday night's main events. Get your FX Shocks today. One-on-one consultation is waiting for you at 308-383-9609. 308-383.
This is Andrew from Kaziski Auto Parts. Kaziski Auto Parts is an insurance quality used parts supplier that can match your foreign or domestic car or truck needs. If you have a damaged or broke down car or truck, we guarantee a clean and quality part in next day fashion. Kaziski Auto Parts, your neighborhood premium recycled parts supplier. Call any Kaziski Auto Parts salesman today by dialing 402-731-4592 or visit us at 5040 I Street in Omaha. Kaziski Auto Parts, our quality used parts will match your car or truck's needs.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
We're working the high line into turn 2 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting. Online at joeskarting.com.
Let's break down what happened at Auto Club Speedway. I've got so many audio files to go through, I'm not entirely sure where to start. Let's just start with what happened on the restart. How's that sound? If you take everyone's word for it, which I know it's tough to do with drivers to take their word on what happened because there's their story and then there's the truth. But Logano says the 18 spun his tires. I was in the throttle only halfway, which then gave the 14 a little bit of a run. Tony thinks that Joey spun the tires, but I think Tony was anticipating Joey to spin the tires because he was going so slow. Logano then goes down to block, which apparently set Tony into a bit of a tirade and very angry. He actually had these comments as he was, after he just got done throwing haymakers with Joey Logano.
Well, Tony, what angered you at the end of the race? What did you take issue with?
What the hell do you think I was mad about? Dumb little runs us clear down to the infield. He wants to about everybody else, and he's the one that drives like a little I'm going to bust his ass.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
I love that. Thank you.
Why was he out of breath?
I think it had to do with the pace he was walking at. He was walking at a very brisk pace.
My favorite part of that whole quote is, I'm going to bust his ass.
Yeah, and the comments didn't stop there. Let's talk about Tony's post-race comments. This is at the Hauler interview with several different reporters. So it's about 3 minutes worth of audio.
Joey spun the tires on the restart, and, everybody had trouble with that. So, but it's not my fault that he spun the tires. And for a guy that's been complaining about how everybody else is driving here, and then him to do that, it's a double standard. He makes the choice. He makes the decision to run us down there. And when you run a driver down there, then you take responsibility of what happens after that. So
I'm going to pause it right there, and let's discuss about this. I am in the field that Joey was completely within his rights to make that block, because as the leader, I would assume as a driver, you're going to do everything you possibly can to protect that lead and to protect that win. And I can understand Tony's frustration behind it, but I think of all people to have an issue with that, it baffles me that it would be Tony Stewart.
My thoughts on it, Tony's got a right to be irritated. I do agree with you in the sense that Logano, he's going to protect his position for the win. But I think, and we were talking about this before we went on the air, I think there's more to it than what people see. But I think Tony's right with everything that Logano's been complaining about, drivers are doing this, drivers are doing that, and then for him to do that. And his comment was, when you're in the lead and you pull a move like that, you're responsible for what happens behind you. So I think Stewart's absolutely right on that.
But why would Tony go down into the pits and start throwing fists at Joey Logano for something that Tony did about 9 races ago at Talladega? He protected the lead and took out some 20 cars. Joey protected the lead but didn't take anybody out.
Tony took out the cars, yes. He had immediately apologized on national TV that he took out those cars. That was not his intention. But you don't see Tony every week having, well, this guy did this guy did that. And Tony, we've all seen him win championships. We've seen him win a lot of races. And Logano here has struggled. I mean, we've all said that in the last couple of years that Logano has struggled in Cup. Maybe he's not even ready for Cup. Now, with that being said, in the same breath, yeah, Logano has started to stand up for himself. I think the Fox commentators are right on that. But, me and Andrew, if we're racing late models and Andrew's faster than me.
Well, that's true.
Okay, so let's say, it is true. Andrew's faster than me, and I'm on the front row, and I go to block, Andrew. I'm on the inside coming off turn 4 at I-80 Speedway, and I block Andrew, and it puts him in the wall. Are you going to sit there and tell me that I did the right thing blocking for the win, or should I have lifted, letting the faster guy go by and making a safer racing environment?
Okay. First off, Logano hasn't complained about nobody but Hamlin. And second off, he did nothing wrong by putting a block on Tony Stewart. I mean, Tony would do the same thing. I think Kyle Busch does it about every week. And I like Kyle Busch. I like everybody, but everybody will do that when they're trying to go for the win. And Tony wasn't faster than Joey was.
In the comment I made to you, if Tony's pissed at Joey for throwing a block and he hates people who block, he's got about 10 other drivers he needs to be punching right now. Because everybody was throwing blocks Sunday at the race. Everybody was throwing blocks.
The X factor to this whole thing is we don't know what Logano has been saying and acting like in the pit garage unless we're there. And Dan, you said it best. I think there's more to this than what people see or realize.
So is Tony's issue with the block or with the way Joey deals with his issues on Twitter? Which one? Because I don't think either one of them justifies punching somebody.
I think the fact that Hamlin was taken to the hospital after the Logano-Hamlin incident, and I think with the way Logano's on Twitter tweeting and stuff and running his mouth, I think it was a culmination of several factors, not just one big factor.
I don't see either of those being justification for hitting a guy like that. I don't see it. Now, if Tony would have been the one in the accident, and Tony got out of the car and ran over and punched Logano, okay. I can understand that because Tony was the one that was in jeopardy there. But I don't see Logano going on and having this Twitter war with Hamlin being any business of Tony Stewart's. And I don't see the block being that big of an issue. I really don't.
And like I said, I think Tony has more issues in himself right now, just how bad of a season he's running. When you're having a bad season or if you're just struggling at something, the first thing you do is blame it on somebody else. You never blame it on yourself. And I think right now Tony's just going through a lot of trouble because he has had just a terrible season. And he made a terrible call at the end of the race. He should have came in and got tires like all them guys did. Him and Brad, neither of them did. And Kyle Busch didn't either, but he was still fast. But
Tony he
ran 23rd, but he came in earlier.
Yeah, he came in and got
field.
2.
Yes.
And that was, I think that was the frustrating thing of it all was that
I think he's mad at himself more than anything else.
He saw his opportunity to get down past the leaders. And as soon as he would have cleared Logano and gotten that lead, he'd have been gone because he had 2 better tires than Kyle Busch did. Busch had 4 old tires. Tony at least had 2 new tires. Mm-hmm. I think that's what he saw, that window of opportunity, and Logano came down and blocked him, and it boiled over. And I completely agree with you, Andrew, that this is a culmination of having a bad season and a very, very frustrating start. This is probably one of his worst starts to a season, single-handedly. And he had a great car yesterday. I mean, saw the way he came up through the field when he got those 2 fresh tires. The interview continued.
I mean, we came in that one stop and got 2 tires and got an awesome restart on the outside that got us to 3rd to begin with. So I was proud of our restart. I was really proud of our team. Steve Addington did an awesome job, and these guys had awesome pit stops and made great changes all day. But I don't know what happened at the end. I think we had a tire going down, or if not, we got something else that actually happened. But it started right before the caution, and then it was really bad afterwards. But still no excuse for Joey to do what he did. It's and just tired of watching these little kids whine, and then they sit there and act tough when their crew guys get in the middle of it. And it's about time. If NASCAR wants to let the guys have at it, it shouldn't be any different in hockey. Let us have at it, and then when one guy goes to the ground, then it's over. Completely
agree on that part.
Should be.
I think they should settle it, because you know what?
Yeah.
When the fists settle it, then there's going to be nothing on the track that's going to do anything. And I think the way that Denny Hamlin went to the hospital earlier this week, that we would all agree we'd rather see fists flying than vertebrae fractured.
Andrew, how many times at the dirt track have you heard where drivers will get into it? I mean, I've seen, and I'm not going to name names here, but I've seen fists just flying in the air, and then it's like a week later, you see the exact same two drivers, once they aired their differences out and somebody hits the ground, about a week later, they're drinking beer in the pits, and they're talking car setup and stuff like that, and all is well, it seems like.
All the time.
So NASCAR, let the guys have at it.
You do have to kind of run a fine line there, because you don't want this to turn into the WWE. Tony continued here.
Tony, he basically said after the race, he said, you know what, I blocked him. And he said early in the race, I wouldn't do that. End of the race, he would. Does that give him any excuse for that at that point?
He still takes the responsibility on himself. I mean, he has that right. He has the choice to do that. I mean, he's in control of his car, but if he ever turns down a cross in front of me again, I don't care what lap it is, he won't make it through the other end of it. If I didn't hit the chip, he wouldn't have made it through turn one to begin with.
Define that for me, guys, real quick. If he didn't hit the chip, and the chip is the rev limiter?
Correct. That's about, he can't go any faster.
Okay. So, and that's, okay.
And
I was wondering.
If you saw him shifting in the in-car cam, you saw that. He went up to 3,000 and then dropped it back down to fourth.
Okay.
So, I'm tired of these guys doing that stuff, and especially out of a kid that's been griping about everybody else, and then he does that the next week. I mean, he's sent Denny to the hospital and screwed our day up. So, he's talked the talk, but he hasn't walked the walk yet. He's always got his crew guys walking the walk for him.
He said he wants to call you this week. Will you accept that phone call?
Hell no. If he wants to talk about it, we'll talk about it. So after he threw the water bottle at me like a little girl, we'll go at it now. I'm not going to listen. I got nothing. I don't care what he has to say. It's just words right now. Actions speak louder than words.
I can't remember if it was last week we were talking about this. I know we talked about it last week, but I couldn't remember if it was after the show when we were all down at Quaker Steak and Lube, or if it was on the air. We talked about drivers that would intimidate us. And Tony Stewart was unanimous of those drivers that if he says something, you need to be scared. And Bud, you'd asked me earlier, would you be scared going to Martinsville if I was Joey Logano, or worried? Worried is the word you use, and I said absolutely not. I would not be worried at all, because I would know for sure that something was coming. And Tony, I don't think Tony will accept his call. And I mean, he's a bit of a hothead. But generally, when Tony says something, he sticks to it, because he's a little stubborn at times.
It's a good thing that you brought up Martinsville. And here's a question for the two of you. Do you think that's going to psychologically be a negative thing on Logano when he shows up at Martinsville and him and his team are pit next to the FedEx number 11 Hamlin's team, but then Logano's walk around going, oh, God, so I got to watch what I say and do around Hamlin's team. But I got smoke over here, several pit garages down, and I'm going to be racing against him on the track. Do you think that plays against Logano psychologically?
It wasn't for Brad Keselowski last year. He was the guy running his mouth about everybody last year. He wins the championship. He just got to go run like he does and run scared, I guess. That's all he can do, is just try to stay up front and out of the way. Or if he's having a bad day, I guess hang a couple cars back from them. But I don't think he should worry.
And what goes without saying after all of this conversation is, that boy was running with a purpose this weekend. Logano had a fire under his butt, and it was called Beat Denny Hamlin. I wonder if he'll have a fire under his butt, stay in front of Tony Stewart in Martinsville. Joey Logano post-race pretty much talked about what he saw and what he was reacting to, or what he how it all happened for him.
Just raced for the lead there at the end, and got into three a little hard, and was doing what I had to do to try to win the race. Hope Denny's okay. I don't, obviously no intentions to get somebody hurt out here, and that cars are really safe, so I'm sure he's going to be okay. But
I'll pause it right there, and let's talk about what happened there. We can fast forward past the incident with Joey Logano, but we'll come back to those clips here in a minute. I see it as Logano got hard into three, understanding that Hamlin was on the outside, and I think he was playing the strategy of 8 tires have more grip than 4. So I'm going to dive into this corner, and I'm going to slide up and probably going to hit Denny. I think the fact that he wanted to beat Denny pushed him into the corner a little bit farther than he should have, a little harder than he should have. I don't think he meant to wreck him. I think he meant to slide up into him and stop his momentum.
I agree with you. Denny gave him plenty of room. There must have been a good 6 to 8 foot width right there between the two of them. Logano pushed the issue too much. And I think what he wanted to do, and we've seen this at Joe's a couple of times, by the way, I'm not telling you to do this, but at Joe's Karting, what we've seen is we've seen the guys come in the carts and they'll roll up against someone, and all they're trying to do is to break their momentum. So when they go into the corner on the high end, they'll have a little bit more momentum coming off the corner at Joe's, and then the guy on the inside will lift. And I think that's what he wanted to do. I don't necessarily think he wanted to wreck Hamlin, but maybe say, hey, look, I'm here. Either way, if in fact that's what happened, I see why he did it. I don't agree with it, though.
He did nothing wrong. He drove in there. If you saw the 2 laps before that, he got loose. That's how Denny Hamlin kept catching him, because he was driving so hard his back end was getting loose.
Yeah.
He drove in there as hard as he could, and what he planned on was, my car's loose. If I do slide up, I'll run in the side of him. No big deal. We've seen it happen lots of races.
Yeah.
Lots of races we've seen cars do that. Brad and Jimmy Johnson last year at the end of the season, and it was a great race. And the only thing that happened is when I think after they started trailing up the hill a little more, is I don't want to say Denny backed off and took him out. I think Denny's car might have got loose then, and that's what got him into the right rear of Logano. So I don't know if Denny tried to take him out, which he very well could have, which wouldn't have been a bad idea, but I don't blame that on Logano at all. I don't know why I'm on his side like crazy, but I don't think he did anything wrong.
I don't think Hamlin meant to take him out. I saw Hamlin's car getting loose because Logano slid up into him, and you could see that back end was kicking out. I think that's what happened, and Denny just lost control of it.
I think that's exactly,
Later on in the interview, Logano had this to say about racing with Denny.
I hope he's okay. I mean, obviously, there's no intentions to wreck him, and if you watched it, I did not hit him in the left rear. And then, after that, it looks like everyone just lost control, and then it all went down like that.
Did you feel like he raced you fair at the end? Do you feel like he was a little more aggressive with you?
He raced me fair, but he didn't race me fair last week.
Was that the helicopter taking Denny to the hospital at that time?
Very well might have been. The key thing there was the reporter asked him, do you think he raced you fair? And Logano said, he raced me fair today, but he didn't race me fair last weekend. And I think this all goes back to what happened last weekend. And I don't think there's anybody in this room and listening to the show right now that would disagree with me. That it all goes back to what happened last weekend. None of us expected it to happen so soon, and none of us really wanted it to happen at Auto Club Speedway. Because of these speeds, a lot of people anticipated it to not happen. And that's why a lot of these drivers wait until Martinsville, until Bristol, maybe Richmond and Dover, to repay these debts, because into the wall at those 4 tracks is a lot less shocking than into the wall at one of these bigger tracks, say Texas that's coming up, or Michigan. So there's a lot less risk, and we've seen the culmination of that where Hamlin had to be life flighted. And let's clarify, Hamlin didn't have to be life flighted. He was life flighted because of all of the post-race traffic.
Yeah.
So, and Logano talked about earlier in the interview, Logano talked about the incident on pit road with Tony Stewart.
What happened was I started with the 18 car on the outside of me. I was starting second on the inside. NASCAR's rule is that you can't pass the leading car before the start-finish line. The 18 was spinning his tires, so I was trying to, not pass him. So I'm half throttle there, trying to make sure I don't, beat him and get black flagged, which gives the 14 the run, and I had to throw the block. If that was earlier in the race, yes, it was really dumb to do. Late in the race is what I had to do. I feel like I had to do to keep myself from losing spots. I feel like if I got put 3 wide there, it was going to take my chances away from winning the race, and I did what I had to do there. I'm going to have to talk to Tony about it. Obviously, he's very frustrated about it, and I'll have to just communicate and see what he has to say. And I'll tell him the same thing I told you, and we'll see what the reaction is.
If you had it to do over again, would you do anything differently, or would you stay with the block there?
At that moment, I had to. So yes, I would have to do the same thing, and I would think that Tony would do the same thing too, to make sure that he secures himself a chance to win the race. Like I said, if that was 20 or even 150 laps into the race, probably not the best move. But coming down with 20, or I think it was even less than, I think it was like 10 to go. That's kind of what we're here to do. That's what I get paid to do, is to try to win races.
Describe what happened. Did he cut you off on pit road, and what happened after that?
Well, he cut me off, and then I was confused because I was like, I don't know what he was mad about. And he came over to me, and at that point I was asking him, what are you mad about? Let's talk about this. I don't know what it was. And then we didn't get the word in. So we'll try to talk some more.
Did he take a swing at you?
I don't know. There's a lot of hands everywhere. I don't know if I got swung at or not. I didn't get hit, so I think everyone's okay.
You and Denny 2 weeks in a row get into it. How would you describe the racing between you there?
All right, so that's what happened on pit road. So NASCAR ended up not finding Tony Stewart. What do you guys think? Should they have fined him?
No, I don't think so. I mean, look at the attendance. The attendance has been up a little bit. The ratings have definitely been up week in and week out. This is the kind of emotion that the fans want to see. You have a bad day at work. Sometimes you just, not me, but sometimes you just want to go after your boss. And Logano's not Stewart's boss, but when you're fed up, you've had a bad day, you're going to get mad. Now, did he raise his arm? Absolutely. Could he have been fined for that? I could see that point, but did he connect with Logano? No. He just kind of, kind of bullied, kind of showed, a display of power there, but ultimately nothing was connected. Logano didn't hit the ground as Tony would like to have seen it. So with that being said,
that we know of,
no, I don't think.
You don't think he should have been fined?
No.
I disagree with your assessment of it, that because of the drama post-race is the reason why the ratings are up. I think that has very little to do with it.
There's been quite a bit of drama this year, though, amongst all the races.
We saw some at Bristol. We didn't see much post-race drama at the other races.
Yeah, Daytona with the Nationwide, I bet you there's drama. We just didn't get to see it in the pits.
Well, I agree with that. It was because of the accident, the reason why the Daytona 500 was up.
But people are going to sit there and go, well, yeah, we could see the drama building, and so people are starting to tune in. They're starting to go to the race. They want to, so if NASCAR comes out and says, okay, boys, let's have at it, and we're going to let you have at it, as long as nobody physically gets hurt, as long as no one punches somebody and hits the ground, man, the fans are eating it up. It's great marketing, great PR for
But
NASCAR.
I don't think that's the reason why ratings are up. Because after Daytona, ratings came down a little bit. After Las Vegas, ratings came down even more. Then we went to, after Phoenix, ratings came down even more. And we agreed those two races were not good races. I mean, they just weren't entertaining at all. Las Vegas happened. Ratings were down because Phoenix was down. Then we went to Bristol because the racing at Las Vegas was good. Ratings came back up again. And now they've come up again because of the great racing at Bristol. Every week after a good race, they just keep climbing. And this is compared to the race last year. So I don't think it has anything to do with it. Not a lot to do with it. Excuse me. Andrew, do you think NASCAR should have fined Tony Stewart?
Yes. If they fine Denny Hamlin for saying the car is junk, they should fine Tony Stewart for saying he's going to kick somebody's ass.
That I do agree with.
I mean, I just don't understand it. I wish they didn't fine anybody. I don't believe anybody should get fined unless it's something 100% like bad. But
let's wrap it up. We're going to head over to Turn 3, talk with Randy Palmer of the Nebraska 360 Sprints. They kick their season off this coming weekend at I-80 Speedway. Weather permitting, we get to have the spring meltdown. That's all coming up in Turn 3 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
For 50 years, Eagle Raceway has been pushing the limits of dirt track racing. Saturday nights, come see the Midwest Best Battle at the fastest third-mile track. Gates open at 5:30 for IMCA Modifieds, Sport Compacts, Hobby Stocks, Sport Mods, and Race Saver Sprint Cars. Eagle kicks their season off on April 19th with the Icebreaker Challenge, featuring the debut of the Race Saver Sprint Cars. Located just 10 minutes east of Lincoln on Highway 34 and online at eagleraceway.com.
If you love wings, if you love rings, and all kinds of other tempting things, great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
Time to grab another tear-off and make your move. We're headed into Turn 3 on the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting.
Welcome back to the front stretch, Turn 3, presented by Koziski Auto Parts. And as always, the interview with the Dirt Track guys brought to you by Koziski Auto Parts, 51st and I Street in Omaha, online at KoziskiAutoparts.com. Talking with Randy Palmer of the Nebraska 360 Sprints. Randy, how you doing?
Pretty good, thanks.
How did the 360s get started? Can you talk about getting this series together and what all it took?
Sure. It happened last summer after the decision was made by Roger Hayden to go with the 305 class. We got all of the 360 guys together and discussed with them, what they wanted to do. And, did they want to go with the 305s or did they want to keep going with the 360s? And it was decided unanimously that these guys wanted to continue running 360s. And so things were in place, and we got talking to the ASCs Midwest Series, and we thought that was the way we were going to be headed. But in October, we received an email from Chuck Zetterich that the ASCs Midwest, he was going to resign from the ASCs Midwest, and so it kind of went into limbo land, and we weren't sure what we were going to do. But then after some persuasion, Chuck came back, but he only wanted a 10-race series. And because he also is the tech man over at Knoxville, and his apparently commitments to his family, he wanted to only do 10 ASCs Midwest races. And there was a considerable gap from June until September with no races whatsoever for the Nebraska 360 sprints, period. And so that's where we came back into play. And so it's formed, and we're going throttle down all the way now.
So this wasn't, when you guys designed this series, Randy, this wasn't, a shot across the bow to Roger Hayden. This was just simply a mere statement saying, hey, we just want to continue the 360 sprint cars. We've got a good, long, rich history here in western Iowa, eastern Nebraska. That's basically what you guys were after then.
Absolutely, positively. This has nothing to do with Roger or Eagle Raceway. This is something that, these guys have got a lot of money that are tied up in these 360s. To go and sell them, you're only going to get pennies on the dollar. So why would you want to go and do that if you can still have the opportunity to race them?
So who's going to promote? Are you and Dennis going to do promoting, or are you going to leave it up to the tracks and you're just kind of going to be the organizer?
It's primarily the track. We're just going out and offering the series, and most of the dates have been determined by the tracks themselves. There's been a little bit of negotiation here with a few of them, but for the most part, we're just accommodating the tracks when they want us to come in and race.
What's the overall interest in this so far? I mean, are you seeing cars from, say, Oklahoma, Colorado, Kansas? Obviously, you have a lot of Nebraska guys, but what's the overall interest?
Actually, we've got people from Colorado and Kansas that have contacted us. We've got some guys up from Sioux Falls that are going to be down. And then also there was a series in north central Nebraska, the whole county sprint, that we've contacted, and they're going to be running with us some of the time. And so these guys are hobbyists just like us, and they didn't travel a whole lot, but, now this is going to offer them the ability to go and do this as well. So we're excited to have them involved, and we hope to have some guys from western Iowa and maybe down in Missouri and Kansas City in that area. Maybe a few guys will be up and race with us as well.
So you guys have set up your own series. What's the point standings like? Is there going to be a point standings to where there's going to be a Nebraska 360 Sprint champion at the end of the season?
Well, we're working on several things on this. There's a gentleman, Brad Brown, who's also known as IB Racing, has started a 360 point fund, and so he's going to be handling that, and that includes all 360 races in Nebraska, not just the Nebraska 360 sprints. It would also be the ASCs and the NCRA. But we're looking at contingencies. Our first obligation is to go and provide a good first for a good payback to all of the drivers and showing up. And so that was the primary objective. And then the point fund was secondary. We have talked to some different vendors, and we do have some fairly decent contingencies that we're working on, and hopefully they come through. That's really what we're working on more than anything right now is the contingencies.
Are you guys working with ASCS so that if we were talking about this before we gave you a call and started the interview, an ASCS night, can they count the points from that race towards the 360s, your 360 series, or do they have to? Is it going to be two separate races?
It's going to be two entirely different series. Our objective is to supplement the ASCS Midwest Series, and by all means, we hope that most of our drivers go and race with the ASCS Midwest. That's really was our first objective, was to go and make sure that the car counts increased at the ASCS Midwest races. Joe at I-80 usually has a pretty good turnout, but some of the turnouts out in Central and out West were not as good because some of the guys from around here didn't want to travel that far. And because a lot of them, let's face it, they were weekend hobbyists. They had their comfort zone out at Eagle Raceway. Now that comfort zone is no longer there, they have an option of either not racing or traveling a little bit. The vast majority are indicating that they do wish to travel. I've had a couple drivers who told me that they were really looking forward to this because it was going to make them better drivers because they were going to have to drive on different type tracks than what they were accustomed to against different competition. And so we're not the only ones that are looking forward to this, but there are a lot of guys out there who are looking to make themselves better drivers and see some new tracks.
Now, you mentioned that the Nebraska 360 Sprints and the ASCS, that will be run as two totally different series. But at the same time, let's say April 5th at the Spring Meltdown, which is what I've seen, I believe, on your schedule. In that feature, if there's 20 sprint car drivers in that feature, and let's say 10 of them are sanctioned through the Nebraska 360 Sprints, will they receive points towards the Nebraska 360 Sprint Series while they get their ASCS points for ASCS?
No, they will not. They are two entirely different series, but we're going to stress that our drivers go and support the ASCS Midwest. Here's the fact. The 360s, without the ASCS Midwest, the NCRA, and the Nebraska 360 Sprints, where else would they race? And so our objective is to go and support all three series as much as possible so that 360 racing survives. Nebraska is the birthplace of 360 sprint cars. Back in, I believe, in 1981 at Midwest Speedway, there was some guys that got together and started a 360 series. It was a series to go and cut costs down. Well, as we know in racing, the longer the series is around, the more expensive it becomes. You can look at every series out there, or every class for that matter, that as time goes on, the costs go up just because money wins.
Drivers just keep finding more and more ways to spend money.
Yeah, absolutely, positively.
Which then forces everyone else to spend more money.
Exactly.
Talk about the schedule a little bit. Looks like you guys kick your season off April 5th and 6th at the Spring Meltdown. Is that correct?
That is correct, with the ASCS.
At I-80 Speedway?
We're really looking forward to that at I-80 Speedway, and we really appreciate Joe Kosiski and the Kosiskis having us there. We're really excited for that race. Those are two good nights, and early in the year should have really good car counts because there's no other races going on, and so we're really looking for some good car counts, and hopefully we can get a lot of people in the stands. That's going to be real important as well. And
keeping our fingers crossed that race happens.
Exactly.
We sat down and talked to you Monday, March 26th, so the weather forecast looked promising for that weekend, but the 10-day forecast... Yeah, they have a tough time. They have a tough time getting the 6-hour forecast right.
That's right. I wish I could be wrong that much and still have a job.
I do feel bad for weathermen because it just takes a fart in a whirlwind to change everything.
That is correct. That is correct.
Randy, with this new Nebraska 360 Sprint, are we going to see a lot of new drivers that even the locals at Eagle that have seen these 360 drivers run for the last few years, are we going to see quite a few different drivers that are new? Somebody maybe we've never heard of.
Yeah, there will be. These guys coming down from the whole county sprint. There's going to be some individuals that we're not familiar with down here at Eagle. They just never came down this far, and that I do know that there will be a few. Off the top of my head, I apologize, but I know Greg Schutz from Norfolk or Columbus, I believe. He's going to be down here. He has a Ford 360, but it is not a Roush Yates 360 Ford. We've got some other guys coming down that we're really looking forward to having race with us, and they're going to be a real good compliment to our group of guys.
Is there one particular driver? I know as the organizer of the 360, you can't take sides, but is there one driver, maybe an up and coming, you think we should keep our eye on?
Well, I mean, you got Cody Ledger and Tyler Drucke and those guys that are really doing well, and as rookies in the last couple of years out at Eagle and with the ASCs, so they're going to be tough to beat in the future. And then, of course, you've got the guys like Trevor Grossenbacher and Jordan Boston and, of course, Jack Dover, who are going to be really tough. And then we've got the older guys that have been around for a while. Mike Boston's going to run with us a few times, and he's always tough wherever he goes. And the Klabundis, John, and Kenny or Rocky, whoever drives. But we're going to have some good guys that are going to be running with us. And, of course, we've got Billy Alley, Ryan Roberts. We've got a lot of guys, Gene Ackland, all of these guys that are very good drivers and are going to be traveling with us.
Talking with Randy Palmer of the Nebraska 360 Sprints. Randy, how could people get a hold of you if it be fans to get a schedule or if it be drivers to maybe register for the 360 Sprints?
Well, they can either get hold of Dennis Parker or myself. Dennis's number is 402-677-3757, or you can give me a call at 402-483-1974. We're also going to be having a website up here, hopefully by the end of this week. Hopefully by around the 1st of April, I should say. And the website's going to be www.nebraska360sprintcarseries.com. And this is going to be a really nice website. It's going to be done by the webmasters up in Sioux Falls, and they do the ASCs website, and so we're really confident it's going to be a really nice website for us, and it's going to have all of our information there as far as our drivers, our schedules, so how to get hold of us, so on and so forth. But we're excited for this to be done finally, because it's been under construction for quite a while.
Facebook page?
We've got a Facebook page. Just go to Nebraska 360 Sprints. And we do have our schedule there, and we do keep people apprised of what's going on at all times.
And we have linked you on our Facebook page, which is The Front Stretch. So if you're a fan of that, you could track down the Nebraska 360 fan page. And looks like you guys have a full schedule lined up there and everything ready to roll. So,
yeah, it is.
Randy, best of luck to you this season. We hope to see you out there this Friday at the Spring Meltdown. Are you going to make it out to I-80 for that race?
Oh, absolutely.
Great. We'll try to track you down in between beers.
Okay, that sounds good.
Randy, have a great night, and thank you so much for joining us. Have a great one.
All right, great. Thank you, guys.
Randy Palmer of the Nebraska 360 Sprints here on the Front Stretch, and we thank Randy for taking the time to talk to us on this Easter day. Right around the corner, we're going to wrap up the show. We're going to give you our take on the first 5 races, our 5 fantasy picks so far this year. We're going to talk about what's going to happen next weekend on the Front Stretch, and we'll wrap it all up. This is the Front Stretch presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
This week's Legend of Tomorrow on the Front Stretch is Jalen Williams, a 13-year-old from Pond Middle School in Lincoln. Jalen has been racing for 6 years and has competed in the rookies class, Chargers, Junior 1 cage, and Junior 2 cage. After winning the Junior 2 points championship, Jalen decided to step up to compete in the 206 animal class, where she's enjoying the added competition. Jalen knows that without the support of her family, especially her mom and dad, she wouldn't be able to feel the rush and excitement of racing at tracks like Little Sunset Speedway, Mini E, and various special races throughout the Midwest. She also wants to thank Mark Gropp and Kevin Cruz from Status Chassis for all their support each week at the track. Besides racing, Jalen is an outside hitter for Nebraska 1 volleyball and relaxes by jumping on a dirt bike, hunting, or riding. Make sure to keep your eye out for Jalen Williams as she tries to claim championship hardware for the 206 animal class. Jalen Williams, this week's Legend of Tomorrow on the front stretch.
The Silver Dollar Nationals are returning to I-80 Speedway on July 18th, 19th, and 20th. Don't miss the nation's top USMTS, MLRA, and Lucas Oil dirt late model racers as they compete at Nebraska's fastest track. Come watch the nation's best dirt track racers compete for a $27,000 to win payout. Ticket prices and packages at 402-342-3453. The third annual Silver Dollar Nationals at I-80 Speedway, July 18th, 19th, and 20th.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.
Get ready for the victory lap as we make our way into Turn 4 on the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Online at joeskarting.com.
Welcome back to the front stretch, presented by Joe's Karting at Council Bluffs. We want to thank Randy Palmer from the Nebraska 360s for sitting down with us. And we were going back talking in between the recordings that we actually didn't talk about who won the race at Auto Club other than in Turn 1. During Turn 2, we just basically argued about who was right and wrong in Hamlin versus Logano and Hamlin versus Stewart. So, Logano versus Stewart, excuse me. So Kyle Busch does get himself the victory. It's his first win on the season, first win for Toyota at Auto Club Speedway, and first win for Joe Gibbs Racing at Auto Club Speedway. And a great win for Kyle. So great to see the 18 back in victory lane.
Ever since he got parked after taking out, I believe it was Hornaday back in the truck race,
right?
At
Texas in 2011.
Yeah, something like that, 2011. He's had a temper. Both Busch brothers are known for having tempers, obviously. But it seems like this year and the end of last year, he's kind of fallen off the media radar map, and all of a sudden he comes back and he's a little bit more reserved, a little bit more mature driver. Now, granted, he won the race, he's going to be excited, but he's almost pleasant to watch and hear interview.
I wouldn't say that yet. He's still kind of upset. I've seen him a couple times upset, but not like the old Kyle Busch. But I think now he was so excited this week, like you were saying, he finally won. It took him a long time to win. But I don't think Kyle's lost his temper by no means yet, but he hasn't been nothing to really be upset about right now.
I think there's a lot of things going on to helping him win. I think the biggest thing is that Joe Gibbs released him to go back down and race down in Nationwide. Last year, he was racing the 54 part-time, and it was Kyle Busch Motorsports. This year, the 54 car is being set up and being ran by Joe Gibbs Racing. Even though Kyle Busch Motorsports is still fielding the 77 car down in the Nationwide, Kyle has actually won three of the 5 races this year in Nationwide, and I think that's a big boost for him. I think it was a big boost for Fontana, especially because he got that experience. The other thing is, I think being a car owner has kind of made him grow up a little bit, and he's gotten rid of that extreme rowdy. He's still rowdy. He's still going to make comments. He's still going to be the most aggressive guy during the restarts. But I think being an owner has kind of pulled him back a little bit, maybe secured him a little bit more in the seat, a lot like it did with Tony Stewart when he became part owner of Stewart Haas Racing. He had to calm down a little bit, up until Fontana when he started throwing haymakers at Logano.
The one thing I've noticed about Kyle Busch with his driving, and Andrew, you talk about it all the time, he's a hell of a wheelman. He's a good driver, but the one thing I've noticed here is, man, he's getting up on the wheel and he's driving the wheels off that thing, literally. It just seems like his driving has come on so much more stronger in correlation with this new maturity that he's got, and that's why I think he's been a lot funner to watch.
We're 5 races down. Obviously, we're all going to sit down for the Easter Bunny 500 around the dinner table. Give me your broad take on the first 5 races for Nationwide and Cup.
While we had some boring moments overall, I think it's been a lot more exciting at this point than what it was at this point last year in 2012. We've seen a lot more drama in action.
Andrew?
Well, the start of it, of course, was just boring, just terrible racing. I think it's really picked up, but Bristol has always been kind of a good track to watch racing at, and Fontana last year was great until it started raining. So I still want to give it a couple more races, but I'm starting to like it a lot more than what I did after Daytona and Phoenix.
I think the Nationwide picked up right where they left off last year. I think they're even more stacked this year with talent, and they're getting better and better with Travis Pastrana coming in, Kyle Larson coming in. These guys, as soon as they get some serious wheel time, and Kyle Larson doesn't really need any more serious wheel time. That guy's up there running in front like he's Mark Martin in the Nationwide Series. But the Nationwide Series is picking up right where it left off last year. Absolutely thrilled to watch Nationwide racing every Saturday, and I love that series. And I think the Cup Series, I'm not going to say that it was boring racing because it just wasn't that entertaining racing, but I'm not going to say it was the driver's fault. I'm going to say it was them learning the car. And I think as they keep going on and we keep progressing and getting more and more information on these cars, that the racing is getting better and better, and these guys are really hanging it out there. They're starting to get the hang of it. I mean, the first time you hop into a sport mod, you're not going to be running 3-4 wide. The thing is, you're not going to run 3-4 wide.
No.
You're probably going to run single file till you get kind of the hang of that car.
Question for you guys. With this new Gen 6 car during Fontana, Darrell Waltrip had mentioned that maybe NASCAR should take a look at maybe doing a gear ratio change to slow the cars down a little bit. What's your opinion on that? Because I don't like it. Leave it alone.
I don't know. I guess the car owners have to figure that out. How much are they spending on this? How much are they tearing them up and stuff like that? I don't think we'll be able to tell from watching on TV the difference in speed, just as long as it's not like 50 miles per hour or something like that.
I don't want to tweak with anything that's going good, and Fontana was the best race we've had all season for the Cup Series. But if Darrell Waltrip's saying that we need to back off on the speeds, I'll listen. But I don't think it's necessary. I think it's just like we were talking about with Hamlin's comments after Las Vegas, that it's a little bit too early to start suggesting changes. They're still getting the hang of this car.
Yeah, but you had a good point here. If they have a restrictor plate racing at Daytona and Talladega, and we're seeing speeds of 207 going into the corners at Fontana, aren't we kind of talking in circles here, NASCAR? If you have a restrictor plates at these two big super speedways, and they're only doing 205 down the straightaways, but we're doing 207 going into Fontana, and God forbid was it Pocono or Michigan last year where we saw speeds of 210?
Michigan, I think Jeff Gordon was sailing down into turn 1 at 225.
Yeah, and there's no restrictor plates there.
Yeah, but I think the reason why the restrictor plates came along, especially at Talladega and Daytona, was because of the pack racing. Somebody gets loose in the front of the pack. I mean, what happens at Tony Stewart at Talladega when he came down to block and caused a 20-some car pileup.
Pulled the Logano move.
As opposed to Logano, when him and Hamlin got together at Fontana, going just as fast as they were at Talladega, only 2 cars got together because they're more spread out. Safety is obviously a huge thing, and we need to be proactive rather than reactive. So if Darrell Waltrip is saying maybe we need to look at this, I'm not going to doubt Darrell Waltrip. I just don't want to tweak with the racing right now because I think it's pretty damn good.
It's real damn good.
Let's pick our couple of drivers, let's say 3 drivers, that we think have done particularly well and are surprised with so far this year. Bud, who's your 3 drivers?
Actually, Casey Kane, Dale Jr.
You're going to say Darrell Waltrip?
No. Actually,
he's doing fantastic this
year. Dale Jr., Casey Kane, Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
All right. Andrew, who's your 3?
I'm going to go with Paul Menard, Carl Edwards after that terrible season. Paul just keeps finishing up there. We can't ever see him.
You're absolutely right. I'm just surprised to hear Paul Menard's name.
It's not normal, is it? And then I'd have to also go with just Junior. Points leader and just sticking it in there. We just never hear about him. Well, we hear about him a lot.
We never hear about him.
But it's just like, man, it's Junior in the top 5. Junior in the top 5. How does that happen?
I'm going to disagree with you guys on Dale Jr. because he's done this to us before. Oh, he's running up front. He's doing good. He's consistent. He's led in the points before. And then he kind of seems to trail off. I think this is a different Dale this year. And I am more than excited to see him prove me wrong. But I don't think he hasn't impressed me like that. I think the drivers that impressed me, Matt Kenseth, that guy seems to have relit the fire.
That's good.
And is driving with a purpose. Kyle Busch has always impressed me. That guy is just an animal behind the wheel. And then, let's see, driver number 3, Joey Logano.
100%. He's looking a lot better than what...
Yeah. The last 2 races have completely impressed me. And he is... We seem to have this habit of talking bad about a driver, and then that weekend of the race, they shut us up. Or at least I'm concerned, as far as I'm concerned. Let's talk briefly about the point standings. We're kind of running out of time here as far as our picks go. Last weekend, Buddy, you took Tony Stewart. Andrew, you took Brad Keselowski, and I took Matt Kenseth as they finished respectively.
Safe pick there, Andrew.
I'm never picking Brad Keselowski ever again. I will promise you that one.
Brad Keselowski finished third in our picks with 23rd place finish. Tony Stewart finished 22nd, and I finished 7th with Matt Kenseth. Now, I gained 25 points on you guys. Buddy, you gained 2 points on Andrew despite finishing a place ahead of him because Tony actually led a lap, and Brad had an absolutely rough day. So, next weekend when we pick for Martinsville, Andrew will pick first, Bud, you'll pick second, and I'll pick first.
Didn't we decide last week we're going to have a new rule where you can only pick the same driver twice now in the season?
Right.
Correct.
That is something we've decided we're going to do. And oh, by the way, when we head to Texas after Martinsville, that's the first race that we can re-pick our Daytona picks, which Andrew, you took Kyle Busch, Buddy, you took Gordon, and I took Harvick. I don't think I'll be picking Harvick, though.
But if you think about it, how many more races we got left to go yet? There's
a lot of races. So we decided, because, I mean, basically the way it is, you could pick the top 5 in points and probably have yourself a good day. I mean, seriously, if you picked Dale Jr. and Brad Keselowski and Jimmy Johnson, you're doing pretty good for yourself so far already. So you can only pick the same driver twice, and you're done. You got to start picking other people. And it's just to throw a little bit of a wrench and a little bit of a hurdle in there for you. Guys, what do you have going on today for Easter? What are you doing?
I'm going to Grandma Kinman. She makes a hell of a ham dinner. We might have a little bit of turkey there, might play with a few eggs, and then go home and work on the race car.
Andrew, what do you got going
on? We'll probably, same way, go to Grandma's, go to aunt or uncle's, go to the girlfriend side of the family, and then probably a movie or something. I'm probably going to skip working on the race car, bud.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoy your Sunday, as we're all going to enjoy the day too. And I really wish there was NASCAR today. We're finally seeing some great racing for the first time in a long time, and now we got to take a weekend off.
Come down to Joe's. I'll Logano, yeah.
He didn't do nothing wrong with
I think I could turn you into the authorities for that.
Wow.
Have a great day, and thank you so much for joining us. This has been The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
In 1999, Wade Cross decided he was tired of overpaying for shocks, so he created FX Shocks. Now FX suspension customers reach across the United States with countless wins and championships, including national champion in 3 major IMCA classes, plus Super Nationals champions in all 4 of the Saturday night's main events. Get your FX Shocks today. One-on-one consultation is waiting for you at 308-383-9609. 308-383.
Are you ready for fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping, wheel-to-wheel racing right here in the Metro? Get to Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs and see what it's like to race real go-karts. Joe's Karting knows it's no fun to race go-karts at 10 miles per hour, so they ripped the governors out, and now the only restriction is how good you are at racing. It's full-throttle, white-knuckle racing every day of the week. Head over to joeskarting.com for hours, prices, and specials, or give Buddy a call today and set up your group races at 712-256-5278.